Hi, I'm Kevin Devine, and you're on bleistiftrocker.de. I do sometimes. I have not on this tour. I think I've written like these thoughts that are kind of like poems that happen sometimes. But touring is very immersive for me now, and I feel like even though I have a lot of like time, it's a lot of time spent moving. And to me, writing requires like stillness. And when I am being still on tour, you're like resting. You're like recovering from all the movement and all the energy that you're putting out. So that's a long way of saying I have not written a song on this tour. Have I ever written songs on tour? Many. In fact, I've probably written 6 or 7 songs in Germany in my life, maybe more. It's funny too, before we all had these phones and laptops, you brought a notebook and a book, or 4 books. I would read like voraciously when I was on tour, when I was in my early 20s. Now if I bring 1 book and read it, I'm like, I'm like an intellectual champion. But so I think that also, honestly, I think that affects it too. I think like when I do have, our reflexes now are so much more to like, go to this. Yeah, you know what's a funny one I've always wanted to do was this record called If You're Feeling Sinister by the band Bell and Sebastian, Scottish band. I don't know if I'll ever do it, but that's the only other one weirdly I think of, and it's a totally different everything than Nirvana, but that record was a big deal to me when I was 19, and every time I hear it now I'm still like, oh God, the songs are perfect. So maybe someday I'll do that. I just need to find someone to play like the flute, and it's less of like a 3 people in a basement thing like Nirvana was. It's like you need to get like people who are actual musicians to do that, but maybe someday. Well, I think that my records are, so some of them, they're pretty different, and I think it depends kind of what you like. Because I think some of my stuff is more folk music in nature, and some of it's more punk music in nature, and some of it's in the middle. And I always just tell people to start with the most recent thing and then go backwards. Because I think something about the presentation has improved with each record. So I always think the most recent one is like the one that's the closest to where I'm at now. But I think the most popular record I've made was a record called Brother's Blood. That was in 2009. So maybe my fans would tell somebody to start there, but I would probably tell them to start with Instigator.